Dr. Randall, the Soul Doctor, author of Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet, shares her 40 years of experience as a cross-cultural practitioner, medical futurist, and expert in 20 different modalities of healing, along with amazing interviews with some of the leading minds in medicine and big thinkers in all walks of life. The stories of our lives are the woven energies of our soul's paths. They feed and ignite the spiritual light that nourishes the universal soul, the one mind, the cosmic consciousness where we all come together. This podcast is going to be a deep dive into the personal stories of people who have made significant contributions to the planet. What formed them? What moved them to become these leaders and innovators that inspire us so? Hi, Sage.
Hi, Dr. Randall. Thank you so much for having me. It's always so good to see you and be with you.
Oh, likewise. What a pleasure. When was it that I met Ana Blanca? I think you guys were just bringing out your product. I met her at Air One.
Yeah, we had just launched our products. I think this was back in early 2015, probably.
Wow.
And I remember she was doing a demo, doing a tasting at Air One in Calabasas. And she came home and she told me, I met the most amazing woman.
Aww.
She walked in there like a lioness with her hair and her bright blue eyes. And she was just so sweet and so kind and so smart. And she knew all about these herbs. And she's a doctor and she has a practice. And she was just couldn't say enough things about you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And it kind of all blossomed from there.
Well, I loved her as well. And then you guys came to my office because we started having your chocolate, herbal therapies in my office straight away.
Yeah, and you were so kind to help us during our Kickstarter campaign, really, which has helped get our business going.
I know,
and now thank you so much for that.
Now you're everywhere. I see you
thank
everywhere.
You. Thank you.
So, well, I just love you guys. I love what you do, and we're going to dive deep into that. But first, I want to introduce you properly, if I may, please.
Sure.
Sage Dammers is the co-founder, CEO, and product formulator, and also the chocolatier of addictive wellness. And we're going to have to unpack that later. Fueled by passion and desire to help people live the ultimate life and create a better world, Sage began as a teenager, seeking out information that no mainstream school could offer in the areas of nutrition and traditional herbal systems of indigenous cultures, two of my favorite subjects. But I didn't start when I was a teenager. He built his knowledge of superfood nutrition and traditional herbal systems, especially on Taoist tonic herbalism. He worked with and trained under the world's leading master herbalists and nutritionists and longevity experts in Costa Rica, Australia, Bali, China, and America. Oh my God, that's so amazing.
Thank you.
His years of experience in this unique area have allowed him to cultivate an unparalleled combination of cutting-edge nutritional and culinary expertise. He has started Tonic Elixir bars in a 5-star luxury hotel in Paris and Sydney, serving longevity elixirs disguised as gourmet treats, introducing the novel concept of healthy indulgence to the market of world travelers. So do they keep coming back to you, I wonder, from those?
Yeah, from those hotels. So I hear about people, years later who experienced it there, and I've stayed in touch with some people, and that was such an amazing experience. The first one I did was in Paris, and I knew I was going to really have my work cut out for me going there, because here you have the world of French cuisine, which is so deeply entrenched in tradition and the way that things are done. And I realized there could be some friction in here. Me saying, okay, we're going to take your hot chocolate and we're going to add in reishi mushroom and we're going to do it now sugar-free and we're going to do all this stuff differently. I was like, well, this could be tough. I'm not exactly sure how difficult this is going to be.
It's a tough crowd, right?
I thought it would be. But I knew my first challenge was going to be the chefs, getting them on board, because this was kind of an initiative that was started by the general manager of the hotel. And as anyone who's ever been in any level of a business can imagine, when a mission comes from the top level that maybe is not something that you're used to doing or not the way things have traditionally been done, sometimes there can be resistance. And so I met the two of the main chefs there, and they were young guys, maybe in their late 20s, early 30s. And I realized, okay, I've got one shot. It's my first evening here, and we're properly starting working the next morning. Let me figure out how I can make them one drink to get them on board. So these were young guys, lots of energy, both in relationships. And I said, okay, I'm going to make you guys a drink. And I made them the most powerful aphrodisiac tonic I possibly could, but made it taste good, made it taste like a really nice hot chocolate, and said, okay, guys, drink this, go home to your girlfriends, and we'll see you guys tomorrow morning, and we'll start working. And they came back the next day with their eyes so wide, like, what did you give me last night? That was unbelievable. And they were fully on board from there on out.
Well, that's one way to get through, right? It's not always through the stomach, right?
Right.
Well, it was through the stomach, but, because of the effects of
that wasn't the end destination. Yeah.
Right. That's amazing. And how brave of you too. How old were you then?
I was, early 20s. So I was 22, 23.
Wow. I also want to say that Sage has developed products internationally, has given lectures on peak performance nutrition and cutting health technologies all over. So he's a knowledgeable guy. And so this is stuff you went to learn from masters. Did you? And you also taught yourself? And
it's been, a combination of things. I mean, and first I want to say thank you so much for always being so nice to me. You're always so generous in your praise and all the nice things that you say. And I have so much respect for your incredible wisdom and experience as well.
Well, you are pretty amazing. You're like a whiz kid, here
so
you are,
sweet of you.
17 or however old you were, and how brave of you. How did you, even go up to these hotels in Paris and say, I have something for you, I mean, did you write them a proposal?
So I wouldn't have known how to do that at the time. I actually was working at an Elixir bar in Los Angeles, and, I was making drinks for a bunch of people one day. And there was this French gentleman there with his wife, and they kept asking me all these questions, and they were just, hanging out at the bar, and they were asking me questions while I was making drinks for other people. And I didn't think too much of it. I was, answering their questions, explaining different things about herbal theory and some of the different herbs that we use. And at the end of the conversation, he's getting ready to leave, and he says to me, I have the nicest hotel in all of Paris. I want you to come and do something like this.
Awesome. So it was serendipity, and he saw in you what I see in you, and what I'm sure a lot of people see in you. And you do have a lot of information and knowledge. So
thank you.
And you said what inspired you was your passion to make this a better place to be, and that's why you're on my show, actually. And so did you how did you figure out where to go? How did you know? How did you get to know to go? Did you find a Taoist here? You went China and studied with somebody? I mean,
both. So it kind of, I grew up as a vegetarian, but not a healthy one by any means. Within any diet, really, there can be a broad spectrum of how well or not well it's done from a health perspective. Right. So.
You could eat Wonder Bread the whole time. And
Wonder Bread is probably vegan. White sugar, it's vegan, and it can be organic maybe.
And terrible.
But, right. So I wasn't in the greatest state of health. I did have some advantages. My parents were doing the best they could with the knowledge that they had. So I was eating a lot of organic food, but it was mostly like 5 nights a week of basmati rice and tofu. And then maybe like one night was pizza and one night was pasta. And that was kind of like on a weekly repeat. And I had the most amazing parents, and I'm grateful for everything that they've done for me. And so I don't want to come off as being ungrateful for my childhood and the way I was fed, because a lot of people don't have any food at all or are going hungry.
Right.
And so I do really appreciate them very much. But I wasn't feeling great all the time. My energy levels were not always high, especially as I, was going up through my teen years and being in competitive sports. And I kind of always felt like there's some level of performance here that I'm missing. There's got to be something that I'm not doing quite right, but I didn't have the knowledge to know what it was. And when I was 14, 15, my parents opened up a wellness center in our community, and they started it out having these infrared heated jade massage beds that people would go there to use. And then they kind of expanded into also having infrared saunas. And this was before infrared saunas were cool. This was, going back into the early 2000s, before anybody really was talking about this kind of stuff on a broad scale as they are now. But they also started selling some different superfood and nutrition type products there. And I met this one gentleman who lived locally in the community and had brought in his hemp protein mix to see if he could sell it there. And it was like hemp protein and spirulina and chlorella, some Western herbs in there like milk thistle. And this guy was just in an incredible state of health. He was in his mid 40s, but he could pass for maybe late 20s, was very muscular, really smart. He had a lot of things going on that I would think, okay, if I could look that healthy when I'm 40, be this smart and well-spoken, and be super healthy and have muscles like that, I want to know how to get there. I want to have what you're having. And this is very easy. He's having this protein mix every day. And so I said, okay, I'll try this. And so again, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just started blending it up with like a banana and some almond milk and some frozen berries, or maybe even not almond milk. I know at the time I was just using like Tropicana orange juice.
Oh my.
And so it tasted horrible, but like when I'm motivated to do something, it doesn't need to taste amazing. I will drink or eat whatever it is. And so I would drink this, and I started noticing after a few days that I would feel this incredible feeling of mental clarity afterwards, like this, almost like a high, but without the fogginess. And I was just blown away because I'd never felt this good before. And so that got me thinking, if this has been out there all along and I didn't know about it, what else have I been missing out on? Because this was the first taste of that something that I knew I was missing, but didn't know where it was or where to find it. This is a bit of that, and I had found it. So there maybe could be more. So I got really into going online and researching about nutrition and raw foods and superfoods. And, then a little bit later, getting into more traditional herbal systems, whether it was looking at some South American herbs, things like papiarco and
It was really how you felt that
100%.
Inspired you to find out more. And then when you found out more and you felt better, you said, oh, there must be even more out there, right? So is that how it went?
Right. It was kind of like I had, I had a feeling that there was a trail of breadcrumbs out there. Gluten-free quinoa millet breadcrumbs. But I'd never found the first breadcrumb. And then this was the first breadcrumb that I had found. And so this gave me faith that there's a trail. I found the first crumb. Let me go find the second one and the third and the fourth. And each progressive thing that I would learn about and incorporate into my life, the better I would feel. The better I would feel, the more excited I would get to continue the learning. The more I would learn, the more I could incorporate. And it was just this great cycle that basically never stopped.
That's awesome. I was kind of like that. Only, I guess I was also using my patience as my palate as well as myself. But yeah.
Well, that's the great thing about having experience like yours in clinical experience over so many years, is that it's not just your self-experimentation that you learn from, but you're able to have thousands and thousands of people reporting back to you.
Well, I always knew there was more. When I was in medical school, I said, I love this stuff. This is great, but this isn't everything, know, and it also, there was certain lacks. I felt like a lack of holism, a lack of respecting the whole person, and that there were more tools than just drugs and operations. And I had to go find out what those were,
right.
like you. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so
So,
I started getting a little bit into the herbs, and then that was where things got really exciting because those were
mhm,
a powerful tool like I had not experienced before.
mhm. So, what was your sport? Were you? I know you're a
Was
surfer.
Yeah, so it was originally surfing.
Mhm,
I mean, I got really into surfing when I was 13 years old, but I was also, I was playing basketball. Um, and that was more in my early teens. And then I was also a competitive swimmer, a bit of water polo, but surfing was always the biggest driver. The big question
mhm,
for me was, what is going to allow me to keep surfing for longer?
mhm,
And then, because I was kind of playing this long game in my head of, okay, most people surf until they're 40 or 50, maybe into the late 50s, and they probably peak physically in terms of their abilities mid 30s. And then it's just kind of a slow decline from there on out. I was thinking, what could happen to my surfing abilities over the long run if I can stretch out my health span and maybe my abilities don't peak for another 10 years after most people would already peak. Maybe I peak in my mid 40s or even around
mhm.
50, who knows? And then also, make the decline after that happen as slowly as possible. I was trying to figure out this mental calculation of how do I get the most amount of incredible surfing experience in over the course of a lifetime. And this seemed to be a pretty good way of achieving that.
Well, that's brilliant because lifespan is what it's all about. Lifespan with quality, right? And
Right.
so that requires the right food, and you were in a constant process of figuring that out. And then you went farther to figure out what herbs might help. Is that right?
Right. So the first herb that I really started taking as an individual herb, and I love to take herbs individually, at least for the first time. I mean, there's herbal
Hmm.
formulations, which are amazing too. But to
I
me, like
understand you. Yeah, I get it.
a formulation is like um, going to meet a bunch of people at a party. You kind of get to know everybody a little bit. Maybe you get to know one person pretty well. But if you were wanting to have a deep relationship with somebody, probably for at least for your first couple dates, you want to go somewhere private, one-on-one, where you can get to know each other without distraction. And so when I'm taking an herb for the first time, I love to take it on its own, on an empty stomach, maybe dissolved in just a little bit of water, and just be able to sit with it, or do it and go do some physical activity to see how it impacts me in that way. And so my first herb that I got into taking was Astragalus, which is
Mm.
it's a famous chi tonic from the Taoist herbal system. It's a lung tonic, and an immune tonic as well.
Mhm.
So when we talk about the chi, this is basically for people who are maybe confused by that term. It's basically moment to moment energy, vitality, cognitive function, immune system function. Astragalus is a great antiviral as well. So a
Mhm.
fantastic herb to know about these days, especially. And it's being something that improves your energy and physical strength. I mean, traditionally it's said to especially increase the strength of the extremities, the arms and legs, and it's good for being outdoors doing hard work in the cold, which that's basically what surfing is. It's very fun, but it's hard work and it's outdoors and it's in cold water most of the year.
Mm.
So it seemed like the perfect herb for me. And I was just feeling really good with that. And then that kind of started to lead me to others. Then, cordyceps was the next one, which is a fungi that works in some similar ways to Astragalus, but is also very supportive of the endocrine system. And then one of the next ones that I had was what remains to be my favorite to this day, which is reishi mushroom,
Mm.
which is such a spectacular herb. It works on many levels. It works on the endocrine system. It works on the nervous system, on the immune system. But for me, I remember the first time I took this, I was living in Australia, and I had some herbs and other superfood products shipped to me from the US that I couldn't get there. And I had ordered Astragalus, but I had been sent something else by mistake. And I was going in for a yoga class early in the morning, and I had brought the tincture bottle that I had of Astragalus with me. And it was kind of dark in the room before going into this is like a 6:30 a.m. yoga class. So it was dark in the hallway outside, and I was going to take a couple dropperfuls of Astragalus just before going into the class. And I noticed that instead of like the light yellow or milky kind of color you would expect from an Astragalus tincture,
Mhm.
this was like a dark red. I was like, hey, what is this? So I went into the restroom where I knew there would be some more light and I could read the label. And it was wild reishi, which is something really special. And so I said, okay, it's here. Let me see what this is all about. I never had it before. And so I took a dropperful, and almost instantly, there like a level of tension and stress melted out of my body so much that I kind of like conked over into the wall next to me. Like the tension that was holding me upright released. And like, I kind of like, it was not like violent, but I kind of like just gently relaxed back into the wall because as it just, tension melted away. And I was like, wow, this is really something. And I went into the yoga class and it was an Ashtanga Mysore style yoga class. So you start at your own pace. But then I just stood there at the front of the mat for like 5 minutes, just saying, wow, this is nice. This is really nice. But without even starting to do anything, I was like, wow, this feels really good. And it was just a blissful experience. And so that one remains one of the top, if not my favorite herb to this day.
So I didn't realize that reishi relaxes you. I've always thought of it as an immune booster, as a,
yeah,
adrenal.
It works right. So and that's a big part of how it's helping the adrenals, is that it's taking away a lot of the stress.
Like the flight or fight.
Exactly. Yeah. It helps get you out of fight or flight. It gets you out of your head and into your heart.
How does it do that?
It's some form of immune system modulation. On one hand, I think it's a nervous system modulation. On the other,
yeah, it sounds like
the immune system, I think if your body feels so protected and provided for, it can then relax in a way, right? If you're in a state of very vulnerable health, and this is a very unfortunate downward spiral that a lot of people get into. If you're in a state of very vulnerable health, of course, you're going to be afraid and stressed all the time, because the littlest thing that goes wrong in your world could be the thing that takes you out or puts you in a state where you're bedridden or something like that. And that stress only makes it worse. And then you're more vulnerable and more worried. And so reishi, I think, can turn that around and send some spiral up in the other direction. And so, reishi for stress, I would say right up there with ashwagandha. Those are and maybe holy basil as a third place.
Yes.
Those are amazing herbs.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, Astragalus was one of the first herbs I fell in love with also, but I was treating my mother for cancer. And, they had Chinese stores, believe it or not, in Omaha, Nebraska. And I'd go down there and they'd bring these out and I'd say, okay, cut it. And they cut. I said, no, this is dry. Give me the good stuff. And then they'd go back and bring out the ones that are like yellow inside.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's so smart.
Yeah. So I love herbs too.
Yeah. It's, I just feel so fortunate. I mean, if you were to go back 30 years, reishi was only available wild grown, which meant it was extraordinarily rare and basically nobody could get it. It was essentially reserved for people in China who were either royalty or incredibly wealthy. And it was in, I believe, the early 90s that they began being able to grow it on hardwood in a wild crafted type of an environment with spores. And so this is something that up until very recently, almost nobody had access to. So I feel a lot of gratitude to be able to use these things today.
Yes, totally. So tell me about becoming a chocolatier. I mean, I don't know anyone else that's ever attempted that or would even attempt that, but, and that's what's allowed you to have this wonderful medium to put your beautiful herbs into. So what made you think of that?
Yeah, so to connect quickly back to something that we had talked about a little bit at the beginning, like I was telling you, when I was first making those superfood smoothies as a teenager, I didn't care what it tasted like. I just wanted to get that feeling. But then, I got to a point where I was thinking, once you're feeling good yourself, naturally, you want to share it with friends. You want to get other people into this. And I was 19. I was on a surf trip, 18 or 19, somewhere around there. I was on a surf trip to Costa Rica with some friends. And they saw me making these drinks. And then we would go out and surf. And I would just, have the drink myself, not make a big deal out of not make a big deal out of it. I never like pushing things on other people. I'm always very reserved about that. And we'd go out and surf, and they would, after 2 hours or hour and a half, 2 hours, come back because they were hungry and they were tired. They needed to go eat. And I would stay out for 6 hours because I was feeling amazing. And after a couple of days, they started taking a closer look at what I was doing there. And they said, "Hey, can you maybe make me one of those drinks?" And I said, "Hey, yeah, sure. Why not?" But the problem was it tasted so bad that they couldn't get it down. They would get it down, and then 2 of them threw up 5 minutes later.
Oh,
and part of this is because they were very toxic. It was, they were dealing with some painkiller medication issues, several of them. And we were in college. It was funny being in college because I was completely dedicated to health, not drinking or anything during that time. But I was at every party. I had my superfood drink, and I was having a good as a time as anybody. But my closest friends were dealing with some more challenging things. So this, I think, would trigger a detox reaction in them almost immediately. And sometimes when your body is, stored toxins are mobilized, if you have such a level of them, your body says, "We need to get this out the fastest way possible." And sometimes that's back out the same way they originally came in. So I realized, okay, something about my formulation here is not working, because if this only works for me and nobody else can even handle this taste, I'm not going to be able to have a very beneficial effect on anybody else. This is going to be just me. And so I realized I have to figure out a way to win on flavor. I have to make something that's just as good, if not better tasting, than the unhealthy stuff that people are used to and crave, as a vehicle to get these most amazing ingredients into people's bodies. They have to actually want this, not just want it because it's good for them, but want it because it's delicious and it just so happens to be good for them. And I'd kind of, in my reading and research, I had come across cacao as being one of the elite superfoods. When it's in a pure form, it is the highest natural source of magnesium, highest natural source of antioxidants, very rich source of chromium, and then also has great neurotransmitters in it, things like serotonin and tryptophan and phenethylamine. And so this really caught my attention because I saw this as a bridge between something that is certainly seeming to be a superfood, and on the other hand, is something that people think of as being an indulgence. Right. And I said, okay, maybe this can bridge that gap, and I can use this as a gateway health food to funnel people over and get them to kind of open their mind to these things and see that healthy does not have to automatically mean lacking in flavor or lacking in a rich culinary experience by any means. Right. And so that I started thinking about that. I started making like some cacao smoothies that were kind of interesting. I would do, again, this is early stages for me, but it was basically like an almond milk, cacao, maca, frozen banana smoothie that would be like my energy drink as I was in college. And then I went to Costa Rica, and I learned there how to make chocolate. And it's great to have chocolate drinks, but nothing quite beats the experience of an actual bar of chocolate. And so I started experimenting with this, and cacao.
How did you do that? How did you find someone to teach you their trade?
I found a workshop that was happening in Costa Rica that was including basic chocolate making. And so that kind of got me into it a little bit. And from there, it was more of me scouring every bit of information I could find on the internet for how to perfect my technique, because there's so much more. Like, you can make a very basic chocolate by just taking some cacao butter and powder and melting down the cacao butter and mixing that together, adding some sweetener. But to make a real quality chocolate that has the right texture and snaps when you break it in half and melts in your mouth in just the right way and has the creaminess. There's a very fine technique to it. Chocolate goes through a process called tempering, where it's a very specific fluctuation of temperatures that you have to guide the chocolate through, because not a lot of people know this, but in chocolate, when it solidifies, the cacao butter can solidify into one of 6 different types of crystal formations. It's the way its cellular structure changes depending on a multitude of factors. And there's 6 kinds. Basically, type 5 is the kinds of crystals that you want, because these are shelf stable, meaning at normal room temperature, the chocolate won't melt. And these also have the right texture to have that perfect creamy melt in your mouth kind of flavor and texture. And so through the right series of temperature fluctuations, you can minimize the presence of type 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 crystals and get as much of type 5 as possible. And that's what creates the perfect chocolate.
Awesome. So do you make all the chocolate, or you have people help you now do that?
Yeah, so our operation we're just a little family business. For the first 3 or so years of the business, I was making every one myself. Now we've expanded a little bit to where I'm not hands-on making every single batch. I have one person who helps me with the chocolate production as well. I do have some participation in each batch, but I'm not necessarily making the entire thing myself. So we've got a little team going on now. We have a great family vibe amongst our team as well.
Awesome.
Like everybody is so cool and supportive and good energy. But yeah, as the business grows, you have to free yourself up a little bit to do all the other elements of the business. There's so many different pieces to it.
I'm not surprised, when you taste food or any food substance that comes from a family-like atmosphere or people that are happy, they have good energy, it tastes better.
Oh, yeah.
Than if, you probably get more of those class 5 crystals just because of your energy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so amazing. Even they've shown that there's some like cutting edge chocolate making technology that's now using sound frequencies to optimize the crystallization and texture of the chocolate. So chocolate responds to frequency. So anything's possible there.
Well, we know water does, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If energy affects water, and chocolate's just liquid. It has water in there, so.
Well, yeah. So I mean, chocolate. It's a magical food, and definitely you want to have people with good energy around it, and just in life, you want to have people with good energy around you.
Yeah.
I would not be super happy if I had to work with somebody who had bad energy every day.
It wouldn't work at all. Yeah. Yeah, I was just reading some brain science research recently, and along those lines, it turns out that people that they can do everything they're supposed to do for healthy brains. They can meditate, they can eat well, they can, take the right herbs and things like that. But if they're negative, if they're negative minded, their brain is not going to do as well as if they're positive people. Right. So, yeah, having good energy and positivity affects everything,
Yeah.
So
it's kind of an interesting circular self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're negative, you're probably going to think, oh, health food, it's not really that, it can't do that much for me anyways. I'm just going to eat the cheap stuff. And then that's going to make you more negative. Whereas as your nutrition improves, as your brain nutrition improves, you're probably going to be more inclined to have some positive thoughts occur.
Right. But there are people that are doing everything right, but they're just sort of born with a negative outlook. And so you have to teach them. You have to teach them a positive. And you can see the difference on functional MRI scanning, and they can be doing everything. It's really important. Anyway, so absolutely. I'm glad I can tell that your chocolate has positive energy around it because it tastes so good. But
thank you.
So then you came up with different formulations.
Yeah. So I, as we grow and expand, I was, okay, what are we going to do next? And I always wanted to deliver the Tonic Bar Experience, which was a hot drink that was creamy, was sweet, brought back flavor memories of people's childhood and the just the feelings that a warm drink can bring. Like when you have a warm drink of a certain flavor, I found it's a great way to bring back memories of nice times in the past and good vibes from when you had that previously. And this is a great way to deliver the herbs. And you have the herbs in a warm drink, they really absorb well. You start getting effects from them very quickly. And so I wanted to create these Elixir Blends, which basically are drinks where we incorporate big doses of these tonic herbs, things like cordyceps and astragalus and lion's mane mushroom and reishi and tremella, the beauty mushroom. And we do them in these powder mixes where you just blend it with a cup of hot or cold almond milk or coconut milk, and it comes out as a delicious creamy drink. You don't have to do much to it. I wanted to make it foolproof because people often are too busy to figure out how to do this stuff. Some people have the time to spend a lot of time experimenting in the kitchen and figuring out their own recipes. Others, we live in a busy world these days, and it doesn't seem to be getting any less busy. So I like to make it kind of almost a fast food solution, in the sense that you don't have to put too much thought or effort or research into it. But you can get the most incredible ingredients into your body every day in a way that also tastes amazing and kind of, let's see, how should I say, sparks those positive, warm, cuddly feelings.
Definitely. And then you came up with are they Elixir bars? Is that what are they called?
Yes,
Tonic?
no, these are the Elixir Blends. They're basically powders that you would mix with the as in a hot drink. And so there's a cacao version, there's a matcha, a chai, and a caramel. So whatever your favorite drink is that kind of takes you back to your childhood, we've got it.
I like them all, but
yeah.
But the chocolate bars themselves. So
so we have these chocolates. That was our first product line. And so instead of doing different flavors with our chocolates, I thought it would be more exciting to do different functions. So each of our chocolates has a different formulation of these adaptogenic herbs in there. So we have one for beauty, one for energy, one for tranquility, one for focus, love, recharge, which is basically adrenal supportive. And then we last year came out with our immunity chocolate.
Awesome. Beautiful and timely.
It's absolutely. It was kind of one that I had been working on for a while. And of course, the events of 2020 made me realize I needed to accelerate the development of that one and get it out.
So what's exactly, can you share with my guests what's in that one?
Sure. So in there, we have really high quality extracts of 4 of the most powerful medicinal mushrooms. We have reishi, we have chaga, we have agaricus, which is a mushroom originally coming from Brazil, and we have turkey tail mushroom. And these all have very extensive research on them in terms of their immunological effects. And there's a number of ways in which they work, but the primary set of compounds in these, which are beneficial, is their beta-glucan polysaccharides. And what those are is these long chain sugars that come inside the mushroom wrapped up into tiny balls. But if you were to unwind them, they'd be like 3 feet long. And basically, they come into your body and your white blood cells chop them up into smaller pieces. And these are sugars, but they're not sweet in flavor. They're actually bitter. It's very different than most sugar that you normally deal with. And he's attached to your white blood cells, and they basically teach them how to do their job better. It's like an operating system upgrade for your immunity. It's like when you update do a software update on your phone for security purposes. This is like that for your body.
Nice. So tell my guests what the sweetener is in your chocolate.
Yeah, so we use a combination of 2 different sweeteners.
Because it's sugarless,
Right, so it's totally sugar-free.
That's why it's called addictive wellness, right?
Right. So to give a little bit of background on why we chose to make it sugar-free, as I was going through my teens and I was kind of confused health-wise and didn't know why I was in the state of health I was, I also had a lot of acne issues, as many teens do, and not knowing what else to do about it, just being really embarrassed by it, I went the route of taking antibiotics. And so I took first tetracycline and then doxycycline twice a day for about 5 years. And as you can imagine, that would do a number on anybody's gut health. And so I had some candida that I had to deal with coming off of that. And when you're dealing with candida, sugar is not going to be your friend.
Sugar's not our friend anyway. It's a drug.
Right. So I wanted to figure out a way to still enjoy my life and have a treat without feeding the candida. And, as I went further down, it's also great to just be able to have a treat in general that doesn't have sugar in it, because, as you said, sugar is nobody's friend. And so I was experimenting with different things, and what we use now is a special organic, non-bitter stevia extract. And then we also use xylitol made from organic birch trees. And so with the stevia, unfortunately, a lot of people have had bad stevia experiences because most stevias have quite a strong bitter aftertaste. This is a very pure extract that has, for most people, no detectable aftertaste to it. There is about 1% of the population who are what are called stevia super tasters, who, no matter how good the stevia is, they have, I don't know if it's exactly what it is, but maybe one taste bud that's a little bit oversized that picks up that stevia flavor, and it's too much. But most people, in my experience, having obviously shared chocolate with tens of thousands of people, is that when people think they're stevia super tasters, most often they're not. They've actually just had bad stevia. So even if you've had a bad experience with stevia, try our chocolate. And it's for that reason that we offer always 100% satisfaction guarantee. So that if you do end up being one who it just doesn't work for you, no problem. We give you your money back.
Yeah. Well, keep sending us those samples, because
of course
I just let people, I go, here, try one of these.
Yeah.
And they go, wow, that's amazing. And you tell me there's no sugar in there? There's no sugar in there. And it actually has, they go, which one is this? They always want to know which one it is. And I don't actually know which one it is, but I say they all taste the same. They all taste.
Very similar in flavor. Very subtle flavor difference from the different herbs. And then the other one we use in there is the xylitol made from organic birch trees, which, of course, xylitol, it's not a great sounding name. It sounds a little chemically, but it actually has been shown to have beneficial effects on the microbiome. It actually acts as a prebiotic. It's good for dental health. It can, in larger doses, can even be good for the bone health of women.
Right.
And it doesn't promote or provoke an insulin response. And interestingly, stevia and xylitol are both biofilm dissolvers. And as you know, and probably many of your patients know as well, lots of different bacterial related health conditions have this stuff called biofilm that gets secreted by the bacteria to protect it and act as a shield and prevents your immune system from getting to it. And so these actually work in a very interesting way, amongst many other things, as a biofilm dissolver to help break down that shield of the bad bacteria. Amazing.
And so how many immune chocolate bars do you need to eat, or how much of one, to get the right dose of those herbs for our current situation?
Yeah, well, it's, giving the perfect dose for everybody is always a tricky question because of so many factors involved, right? Yeah. So generally we say 2 pieces a day. And there's, 4 pieces in a box. Some people will have a little more. Yeah. Some people will have a little less. We have different body sizes, different metabolisms, different states of health, all these factors. But usually somewhere in the range of 1 to 4 pieces a day.
Oh, that's nice. Because you get to have it more than once, and
why not? You get to enjoy yourself.
Yeah. It's just the best tasting chocolate, and you always feel like, geez, this really can't be good for you, can it? But then it really is.
Oh, that's so sweet of you to say.
Well, it's delicious. It has healing herbs in it, and we all need to take care of our immune systems right now, or always, but especially right now. And so that's just good to know, because I didn't know what to tell people. So thank you for that.
Oh, yeah, no problem. My pleasure.
Yeah. And is that generally the case with let's say people need help with their adrenals, and we go for the energy one, or the recharge. The recharge.
Yeah.
Is so 2 pieces, would that be?
Similar there. Yeah. And so in that one, you have the top 6 adrenal supportive herbs. People used to call it more adrenal fatigue or burnout. Now the more accurate term is HPA axis dysregulation.
Right.
And so we always have to adjust a little bit. But basically in here you have Hoshu Wu, Eucomia, Cordyceps, Cistanche, Morindia, and Romania. And this plugs into basically what the Taoists would call your Jing. This is boosting up your Jing, which is in the Taoist system, they have what they call the 3 treasure system. And they say your life is formed of these 3 treasures. And to me, I'll explain a little bit how it works. This is a framework that I think really helps people to understand and think about the different areas of their health and how their lifestyle affects it for better or for worse. So first you have your Jing, and they would traditionally use the metaphor of a candle to talk about this. They would say your Jing, which is basically your core kidney adrenal reserve energy, is the wax and the wick of the candle. And I like to make it a little bit easier and think of it financially. And I say your Jing is like your savings account of energy. Some people in life start out with more money in the bank account and some with less, and because they maybe inherited it from their parents. And it's like that with Jing. You inherit this from your parents, based on your parents and grandparents, etc., based on how healthy they were. And we all know people who start off life without very much Jing, because they're the ones who have to really be actively working on their health all the time just to exist and stay alive and be reasonably healthy. Whereas we all know people as well who have a ton of Jing to start out with, because they're the ones who can drink and smoke and abuse their body and make fun of everybody who works on their health, because they say, hey, look, I just party and I'm doing just as well as you are. Why should I make any healthy decisions? But of course they end up, hitting a wall around 55 or 60 and they have a heart attack and that's it. But we start out with more or less amounts of Jing based on what we got from our parents. And we use this up as we go through life. Ideally, use it up little by little by little, because when you run out, that's the end. But a lot of people have what are called Jing Leaks. And this is where you're stressing too much. You're not eating well. You're not sleeping enough or getting enough high quality sleep. You're maybe all number of things. If it's not healthy, it's a Jing leak. If your body is having to dip into its reserves to offset the unhealthy life decisions, you're using up your Jing at an accelerated rate. The second treasure is your Qi. This is your moment-to-moment active mental energy, physical energy. It's very much tied to your immune system and your lung function. It's basically your ability to extract energy from the air you breathe and the food you eat. And this, in the candle metaphor, is the flame. It's the active part of the candle. In my financial metaphor, it's your checking account. It's where you, on a daily basis, are having deposits and withdrawals. And ideally, if you are living a financially sound life, you are not spending more than is coming into your checking account. So you're not having to really dip into your savings. But if you're spending 10 times as much as you make, you're going to have to dip into your savings to get by. You're going to have to dip into your Jing. You're going to have to tap into your adrenals and use that adrenaline to power you through the day, rather than more pure energy from your nutrition and from your sleep. And then the third treasure is the Shen. And this is what's called the ultimate treasure. And this is what is talking about your higher self. It's the light in your eyes. It's your spirit.
Yes.
And so, to go back to our metaphors a little bit, the ultimate purpose of a candle is not just to have a big flame, but it's to give off a lot of light. To go on the financial metaphor side, if you have a great savings account, if you have a checking account that's doing well, then what are you going to do? You're going to start a nonprofit. You're going to do something to spread it around and benefit others as well. And so you're not going to be able to do that great nonprofit if you're not financially healthy. You're not going to be able to give off a big light if you're just a little birthday candle. So you start building your Jing, which is what these herbs in the recharge chocolate are doing. And then from there, you can work on building your Qi. And then from there comes the Shen. And so we have different herbs that work on these three treasures. So you have things like Hoshu Wu and Eucomia that would work on your Jing. You have things like Cordyceps and Astragalus for Shen. Reishi, we talked about earlier for the stress, is an elite Shen tonic. It works on the three treasures, Reishi. It's one of the very few three treasure herbs, but especially on the Shen, and albizia or pearl powder would be 2 other great Shen herbs.
Beautifully explained. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Thanks. So the recharge formula, I mean, oftentimes what we see is patients will have chronic fatigue, basically adrenal fatigue, basically being in flight or fight too much. Their adrenal axis is, flatline. If I measured them with my tests, their cortisol curve would be nothing, and
right.
their serotonin would be low, their GABA would be low, their dopamine would be low. So would that be a good formula to start? Because oftentimes they go to other doctors and they right away give them like adrenal meaning from cows, and they give them a very hot formula, and it just sends them into the wall. Yeah. This sounds like a nice building from the pyramid floor up kind of a formula that could help them.
It's more restorative in nature, especially with some of these herbs like the Hoshu Wu, because within the concept of Jing, you have Yin Jing and Yang Jing. This is that you've seen the Yin Yang symbol. You have the 2 sides. One is more cooling and restorative and replenishing. The other is more fiery, and so we have a good balance of both yin and yang in that formulation. But when somebody is really having a rough time in that department, especially it's a great formulation as a whole, but especially these yin jing herbs like Hoshu Wu can be very, very helpful.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right. So, do you have an anecdote? Somebody you helped with certain herbs, maybe somebody like you that you didn't feel like you had the energy you were supposed to have, so you basically spent your life to figure it out, and now you're sharing it with other people. Do you have an anecdote where you shared with another person and there was an amazing result?
Yeah. There was one, a young lady who I met here in Los Angeles, who was working in the modeling industry. And of course, it's an industry that pushes people to be thin, lose weight at all costs. And as a result of that, her hormones were struggling. She hadn't had a period in years. You have to have a certain amount of body fat to be able to produce the right hormones and be able to support a healthy cycle. And she just felt stuck. She'd been told maybe she would never have a period again. They put her on the birth control pill, at least just to get her to bleed. But of course, that's not a real period. It's kind of like the fake news of menstrual cycles. And she thought this is, she had just kind of resigned herself to that. And I did my very best to express to her that this is not the end. You don't have, this is, you've been told only one version of the story, and there's a whole different version out there that I'm going to tell you. And that's that you can fully rebuild your health. You can take all of these herbs to help rebuild you hormonally. Things like Hoshu Wu, things like ashwagandha, things like shatavari. Shatavari is a fantastic herb for women's hormone health, coming from the world of Ayurveda in India. And
Shazandra, maybe?
No, Shazandra is a great one too, but this one is shatavari. But Shazandra is another of my favorite herbs as well. And so I got her onto some of these herbs, also onto some supplements in the hormone direction, in like DIM and indole 3-carbinol, for balancing things out in that direction, and calcium D-glucarate. And she was, I don't want to say inspired. It makes me sound a little full of myself, but what I said connected with her to the extent that she said, okay, I'm going to get all this stuff and we'll give it a shot. And I didn't hear from her for a little while. She had moved back to England, and lo and behold, a few months later, her cycle was back. She was feeling much better and much happier. when your hormones are not in the right place, your mental health struggles as well. She was feeling happier. She was feeling, her body had shifted in a way that she had really a much more womanly, healthy figure now, and had really, her body had shifted back to the way that nature had designed it for her, I would say. And things were back working, and just, I was so happy for her, so proud of her that she had not let a certain industry dictate the way that the rest of her health and her life was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, because I see so many women impacted by the effects of hormone health. That's one of my huge areas of passion as well, is female hormones, because gosh, I mean, I'm sure you see it in your practice every single day. The impact that can happen if, you have too much estrogen, or if your progesterone is really struggling. It's the impact on almost all areas of health is tremendous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Thank you for that. That's great. So, tell my guests how they can get that drink that makes them feel like home. Tell them how they can get your bars. Tell them,
Sure.
Yeah. Tell them that. And then I want to ask you one more question.
Okay. So, you can find us at Addictive, ADDICTIVE, wellness.com. And you can find all our goodies there. You can check us out on YouTube and Instagram, Addictive Wellness on both of those. We put out a lot of fun recipe videos and educational videos and do Q&As, all kinds of good stuff. So would love to stay connected with everybody listening.
Yeah, and they do some good talks, I'll tell you that. So
thank you.
And so what do you see for your company, for your initiatives, as continuing, like your inspiration started you to make this a better place to be? Where are you going?
Yeah. I am so excited that we've reached a pretty awesome number of people so far, but still, people find us all the time and said, "How did I never hear of you?" So I think we're only at the tip of the iceberg, really, with the number of people, even with who are already interested in health, who we can, I hope, positively impact and bring some joy and health into their lives. And then to see the way that the healthy community is growing. It's the Charles Dickens thing. It's the best of times and the worst of times. There's a lot of unfortunate things going on in the world today, but we're kind of being pushed to the point where you can't really get away with not taking care of your health anymore and not being an active participant in writing your own health story. And I think there's, a lot of suffering that happens because of that, because people don't take an active role in their health, but also that more and more people are making the move to say that I'm going to take charge of my own health and my own life and not let that story be written for me by other powers and multinational corporations and the pharmaceutical industry. And I am so excited to see that. And whenever those people decide that they're ready, I'm waiting here with chocolate for them.
There's a prize at the end. Love it. All right, Sage. I love you guys so much.
We love you too, Dr. Randall.
Yeah. And we gotta get my office stocked up. I noticed that the people have depleted my shelves from your product.
Oh yeah, I think we just actually had we just sent you out a shipment last week. So
good.
They should be filling up any moment now.
All right, awesome. All right, I love you guys. Stay in touch with me. Okay,
absolutely. Thanks, Dr. Randall. Bye.
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 I'm Dr. Gail Randall, creator and host of Soul Stories. I just want to thank you for listening to my podcast. I recently got a notification from the International Podcast People, and I was astounded that so many countries are listening to my podcast in the category of alternative health. So thank you, and please continue to listen. I especially want to thank Egypt, Croatia, Japan, and Switzerland, also France and Ireland, because my numbers were quite high there. So keep up the good work and check out my Instagram at Dr. Gail Randall, and particularly check out my Instagram TV, where you can hear me talking about alternative medicine subjects and also see me. It's a very good show, and I think you'll like the subjects. It's on 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every Friday, but it's recorded there, so you can find it there anytime you look. Okay, thanks again. I love you guys. This is Dr. Gail Randall from Soul Stories, and author of Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet. I want to thank Saltology, our sponsor, at bathsalt.com, which fits perfectly into my medicine bag as it, like me, calls upon the ancient wisdom and modern technology to heal, especially with the stresses and ills of our modern times. The Bokek brand uses organic salts combined with organic essential oils sourced from ancient Egypt to provide a perfect remedy for your bathing ritual and healing from modern stresses. The Relief RX brand is a unique one-of-a-kind healing salt that uses organic CBD, treated with a unique emulsification process to create nanoparticles which easily enter the skin to most effectively heal and relieve aching muscles and joints. Whether from chronic inflammation or just a rough workout, this is the perfect healing bath, especially when you add the organic essential oils of neroli, lavender, eucalyptus, or grapefruit. Your body, mind, and soul will be lifted and soothed like never before. Go now to bathsalt.com. I also want to give special thanks to Larry Antonino and Agora Borealis Recording Studio for music and score, and also to closetotheearth.com for IT and computer assistance.